different by design. Studebaker is, Studebaker is, Studebaker is.
Hey everyone, Kyle here again, joining you from the Small Collections facility here at the Studebaker National Museum. Now today I wanted to share one particular piece of what I think is sort of often overlooked automotive history, and that is the humble license plate. Now we usually don't give license plates much thought, right? Unless you are trying to decipher the vanity plate of that car in front of you at a stoplight. But they do have a fascinating history that really dates back to the earliest days of the automobile. Now, if we go all the way back to about 1900, when the horseless carriage was still a brand new technology, there were just a few thousand total motor vehicles in the U.S. at one time. Now, you might see a few cars driving around a big city like Chicago or New York on any given day. Now, compare that to the hundreds or thousands of horse-drawn carts, wagons, and carriages that you'd see around you. Now, that all changed in April of 1901 when New York became the first state to require vehicle registrations, followed by California later that year. Now, these early license plates were typically homemade and only contained the owner's initials without any numbers or other letters. And now, as you can imagine, that system wasn't sustainable, right? What if you had the same initials as your neighbor, for example, and maybe he had a very similar car? So fast forward a couple of years, 1903, Massachusetts became the first state to actually issue license plates. But as the automobile gained popularity, thanks largely to the introduction of Henry Ford's Model T in 1908, it became necessary for other U.S. states to find ways to regulate cars, drivers, and traffic. And then by 1918, all states had begun issuing their own vehicle registration plates. So these early plates were meant to be semi-permanent, but by the 1920s, states began mandating regular, usually annual renewals. So the manufacturing methods would have differed by state, but most plates typically had a combination, mostly numbers early on, right, in large digits. In the center, while there was smaller lettering on one side that indicated the abbreviated state name along with a 2 or 4 digit year registration that year was valid during. So we can see an early example of that right here. Now, our collection of Indiana license plates dates back to the 1920s, like this one from, I believe, 1924. They were relatively simple designs with the embossed registration number in the center. We see that IND right here with the year of the registration. Again, this is a 6-digit plate number. Now, one of the more obvious differences between the older and more modern plates are the size or the shape of the plate. Now, early plates were various sizes until about 1956 when you see the US, Canada, and Mexico come to an agreement about the standard size for plates, except for motorcycles, which are 6 by 12 inches, and that's what they are today, like these up here. So starting in 1950, Indiana moved to a county-coded numerical system when issuing plates, and that's why plates after this period have a combination of letters and numbers. We also see states, Indiana included, beginning to use slogans on plates starting in the mid-1950s. You can see this one here has a simple "drive safely," which we see a couple different times in the 1950s. And then, you go several decades later, this one down here, obviously themed to the Indy 500 race, and that's another example of a plate that has a graphic on it, and graphics started appearing on plates starting in about the 1970s. And today, most states have plates that have some sort of graphic on them. I'm a big fan of the New Mexico and Oregon plates, for example, and I'm sure you have your favorite too. So personalized plates, also known as vanity plates, have also been around since actually early on, about 1931, and are still going strong today. And then most states also have historic plates for older vehicles, plates for supporting military personnel and their families, benefiting local colleges or nonprofits or whatever. The sky really is the limit. So really nice examples of a few license plates in our collection here. You can also see them on some of our cars in the collection as well. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you down the road.
Completely different by design.